needed a season that had a shorter runtime, as well as having all the momentum coming from the previous seasons, as well as having quite an interesting idea, still turn out this crappy.
Geogan Rising was the third season of the Bakugan reboot, continuing the story left off from the previous season, Armored Alliance. It was announced that this season was given a much shorter runtime than the previous two seasons. Now this season consists of 26 full series episodes instead of the usual 50 to 52 from the last two. It kind of baffled and confused some people in the fandom, and even some speculated that this was a sign the franchise is already dying. Well, Spin Master's earnings report says otherwise. This season introduced the phenomena as well as the selling point for the real-life toys, the Geogans, a species of ancient warriors that flourished with Bakugan in ancient times but separated from Vestroia for some reason and only returned after this man, Gregorius Reed, stole the healing core cell, destroyed it, and made the Geogans come back. Unlike Bakugans, Geogans are shaped differently, descending from the sky and replace the Bakugan already fighting. And they do this because, well, they like to fight no matter which side they're on. That's about all the lore we have for the Geogans. During this season at the beginning, the awesome brawlers all return and reunite with Drago, meeting the new Bakugan they'll team with and have to deal with a new issue, which is Bakugan disappearing after they lose, pretty similar to the Doom Dimension arc in the original Battle Brawler series. Now this was an interesting plot point because it actually posed a high stake for the awesome brawlers, but more specifically Dan, because for some reason the new Bakugan just don't disappear when they lose and Drago's the only one that can disappear. It was a good plot point to go from to build up a season, but eventually it actually just gets forgotten about after Shun's company fixes the issue. We still don't know why Flyboy, Soldier Shark, Pranky Kitten, Lazy Scorpion, and Bratty Fox don't disappear when they lose. That was just something that was just dropped. There was nothing mentioned about why these five are so special or even tried to build them up in any way. They developed the relationship between them and their new partners, and that was it. I would have really liked it if this was a special privilege given to them by the faction artifacts somehow, because I think that's how that works, right? And I would have liked that it would have helped Drago in the final battle of the season, but I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. Those are just only some of the problems I had for this season. There was a lot more, but I really want to go through the things I did like about this season first. For one, the animations just keep improving every time. There are quite a few scenes per episode with the Bakugan and CGI, and the frame rate is like 60 FPS. There are just so many monster shows that I've watched, but Bakugan really knows how to make their CGI monsters. There are a lot of action-tacked scenes where the frame rate is really spot on, but there are also some scenes where it's blurry, but that's nothing new in this show. But overall, the animations are really good and consistently just makes this show really pretty. The voice acting as well constantly just improves and keeps being really well done. A lot of the voice cast returned for this season and even getting more roles to voice other characters. Like Julius Cho, the voice of Magnus, also does Stingzer. Devin Mack, the voice of Winton, also does Arcleon, and so on and so on. They really get to showcase their voice acting ability this season. I know since China Red doesn't appear at all this season for some reason, so they got Josette Jorge to do other voices. And Anna Sani, who voiced Emily, only got one episode as Emily. And the rest, she's this new mysterious psychic character called Crystal Blue, as well as Leah's mom as usual. Stacey Japaz voiced for Rascal. Josh Graham, who did Storm last season, also does Falcron now. And then we got Dan Petrona Gvac, Carling Doubt. Heck, they even got Martin Roach to voice Villock, and I think he really smashed that role in my opinion. And they even got Paul Sun-Young Lee to voice Spartillion in this series, but I guess since Paul is a big deal or something, they didn't have him do too much of an appearance. But regardless, I think he really fit the part. Bottom line is, the voice actors I can tell really did their best to make every character and role they were given work, and that's something I can appreciate. When it comes down to the story, if you really get down to it, it is kind of interesting. Some episodes are pretty entertaining. I mean, Lightning dressing up as Michael Jackson, because why not? And as well, this season really brings us into the world of Vestroia, which is the Bakugan homeworld, and the overall landscape of different places and detail they really put into it is really beautiful in my opinion. I think it really looks nice, and every time they show the overall land of what Vestroia looks like, I can't help but be impressed at how creative the artist who drew this is. Geogan Rising overall is impressive, not just visually, but the cast really helps make an enjoyable experience. That being said, while this season was fun to watch, there is a major lack in substance. Like, this whole season is about Geogan Rising, and yet we know next to nothing about them. There was no attempt to try and explain their origin story and why they left Vestroia for their own realm, or even explain what the rule is in calling them. These Geogans are supposedly working like Bakugear, showing up when the Bakugan is in trouble, but the thing is, the Geogans are being portrayed as being characters, and yet none of the Geogans seem to have character at all. They're just, I don't know, I guess emergency terminators? That's pretty weak. There is also way too much filler episodes for a season that was cut in half from the previous. Like, from what I understand, Marty Eisenberg returned to make the story for this season from the last season, but Satahito Sata was replaced by Isao Moriyama. Now, I'm not going to go too deep into trying to understand behind the scenes stuff because I don't know a single thing about that, but it really seems like Isao Moriyama was way too overloaded with material from the previous 2 seasons and spewed out garbage for this season, ending up butchering a lot of characters like Magnus. My god, how Magnus was written this season, it seems like they read the wiki general summary of him and just wrote his character based on that, just completely ignoring the awesome redemption story and depth he had in the previous season. Like, Magnus apparently went through like a journey to get stronger after rescuing Emily, and somehow Nilius became Alpha Nilius. That's my original joke there, please don't steal. While there is literally an episode where Magnus saves a Cabo colony and gets a dark power stone that teleports. They could have used that as a way to transform Nilius instead of having it done randomly and off screen. And for some reason, they went back to season 1 Magnus for his character in this season to the point of teaming up with the 2 people that kidnapped his sister and also a legal arms dealer. Magnus was just absolutely poorly written this season. I'm sorry. And back to the topic of filler episodes, there was literally 5 whole episodes in a row where it was pointless filler that contributed nothing to the story, and once again, I had to curse your eyes with this one.
Stop it!
Like, I get it, it's still a kid show and needs some filler once in a while to not be so serious. I truly understand that, but when you put it in 5 whole episodes in a row, that's 5 weeks worth of airtime. You couldn't have used maybe 2 or 3 of those to build lore and make the G-Guns even somewhat interesting? It's really to the point where it's gotten obnoxious. Because this really was just a sign you had no ideas this season, and for a season that was shortened, I'm sorry, but that's really pathetic. And Gregorius Reed as well was a terrible villain. Like, they went back to season 1 and tried to make 2 villains in 1 season, and in this season it was Reed and Villock. Reed has an obsession with collecting Bakugan, and Villock doesn't like humans and wanted Earth and Vestroya separated because of all the terrible things humans do with and towards Bakugan. While Villock's motivation is understandable, Reed is a walking contradiction because he later pairs up with Villock, even though separating Earth and Vestroya would mean Reed can't collect Bakugan anymore, and it's just a very mismatched pair. There was no attempt to explain their relationship, so Villock betraying Reed was not at all impactful as they were hoping it was. Reed pairing with Villock really just erased any potential his character could have had. He was literally here because of forceful writing. When they actually do something that could be very interesting, it pretty much falls flat on its face. So, plugging Geogan Rising in the star ratings, I'm giving it a 6 stars out of 10. This season felt like they had no ideas because of the amount of filler in such a short season. There was no attempt to make the Geogans interesting. Reed was such a terrible villain, and I absolutely hate how they butchered Magnus's character. There was so much missed opportunities and so much plot points left unfinished that it seems like they were cut or went missing. But the animations I think got a lot better. The voice acting is really good as always. The season did start off really strong, and there were pretty enjoyable moments in episodes this season, and they did hype me for next season, but Geogan Rising ranged from decent to just disappointing. But let me know what you all think of this season in the comments down below, and how would you star rate this. But anyways, thanks for watching this season star rating, and by the way, the majority of you watching are not subscribed to this channel, so if you enjoy the content that we do, please consider subscribing so you don't miss out on a lot more to come. And be sure to press the like button, and thank God for rapid fire. Bye!